Good evening. Welcome back to this second segment of the Glazov Gang. Our gang members this evening are Bill Whittle, conservative commentator, Tommi Trudeau, producer of films and music videos, and Leon Weinstein, the author of Capitalism 101. Gentlemen, welcome back to the second segment of the Glazov Gang. We left on a very depressing note in the second segment about America and the West because of political correctness and the way that the left controls our boundaries of discourse and debate, perhaps no longer having the will or intestinal fortitude or courage to save our civilization. I think the best way to perhaps begin this segment is we have an anti-American president, ran on a horrible record. He got elected again. I think it shows a lot of things, but one thing it shows is the failure of the conservative movement of the GOP. Let's talk a little bit about why did Obama win and what can we do to reawaken conservatives or bring them back from the dead? Bill.
Well, Obama won because conservatives didn't show up. He did a better job of getting his base out than I thought he would. But when you find out that if you'd taken John McCain's vote total in 2008 and brought it forward to 2012, McCain would have beaten Obama the second time. I knew large numbers of conservatives sat out the vote in 2008. Turns out even larger numbers sat out in 2012, even after 4 years of seeing this nightmare. So that's telling me one thing. It's telling me that this entire theory of playing for the middle is nonsense. We outnumber liberals 2-1 in this country.
Let me interrupt for a minute. Is that Karl Rove's strategies, playing for the middle?
Yes, of course, this path to 270 and a plan to pull 5 states together and weed.
That's a failure.
No, it's an utter failure. We outnumber these people 2-1. When you ask people how they self-identify in the United States, 5 will say that they're conservative, 4 will say that they're independent, and 3 will say, I'm sorry, that's wrong. It's 4, 3, and 2. 4 will say they're conservatives, 3 will say they're independents, 2 will say they're liberals.
Wow.
Conservatives outnumber liberals 2-1. We lose the election because our base doesn't come out and vote, and the base doesn't come out and vote because they don't see a big difference between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama. And the problem is, as I've been saying since the election, our side doesn't even, not only does our side not even believe our own philosophy and message, but when you come down to Mitt Romney, who I admired very, very much as an individual, thought he was a really nice, good, decent man, honorable man. But Mitt Romney doesn't even believe Mitt Romney's own life story, let alone the conservative message. Mitt Romney ran from his money, Mitt Romney ran from his success. He didn't want to release his tax returns because he didn't want people to see how much money he made or where his money went, as if he's ashamed of these things.
And Bill, what was that third debate, playing Mr. Nice Guy? The movie 2016 should have been his talking points, no?
He was playing inside baseball, right? He's playing to not lose. And so what happened was, people who were a little fired up after the first debate got progressively less fired up. But look, many conservatives said, well, congratulations, here's the 2012 slate. The guy who instituted Obamacare and the guy who invented Obamacare. These are the 2 candidates for president of the United States. The conservative candidate, the Republican candidate, was the guy who invented Obamacare. He invented the entire idea of So conservatives go, well, this is, if these things are this close, why even vote? Why not? If it's going to collapse, because Romney's not going to do anything differently, why not have the collapse come under the Democrats' name? If no one's serious about getting this budget under control, that's what's their attitude. I disagree with it, mind you. I think incremental change is better than this, but nevertheless, that's the attitude. So what it's going to take, Jamie, is it's going to take a conservative messenger, a conservative candidate who not only understands conservatism but isn't ashamed of it. We've been beaten up by the culture. We're victims of Stockholm Syndrome. All the cool kids say that we're all a bunch of racists and squares and homophobes and all this other stuff. Utterly untrue, provably untrue, but no one wants to come up and say things like, of course I have $250 million. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of all of the money that I own because the money I own is a sliver of the wealth we generated for all of society.
Yeah. Tommi, well, how do you see it? What do you think?
I really think that America has changed. After 4 years, 1 term of Jimmy Carter, America had had enough and elected Ronald Reagan. Now we went through 4 years of someone who is far to the left of even Jimmy Carter. And apparently we haven't had enough, and we elected him for a 2nd term. That says to me that America has changed. And in order to survive, in the world, in nature, even in politics. You must change and adapt. I don't think it's the same country as when Ronald Reagan was president. We've gone through some changes. We need to reevaluate and see where we need to change and where we need to adapt.
But Tommy, what Bill is saying is perhaps we haven't changed that much. The problem is that the Conservatives are not coming out because they have these weak candidates.
I disagree.
Okay.
I think the country has changed.
Okay.
And I think Bill is right that Conservatives were painted because we didn't say anything. We didn't stand up. We were painted as old and paranoid and bigoted and angry, and as President Obama said, clinging to guns and religion, and we allowed that stereotype to be stuck to us, and that was one of the big reasons why Conservatives were defeated.
Tommy, would you like to apologize for being a registered Democrat?
I've been a registered Democrat for 20 years, and I think even Ronald Reagan said I didn't leave my party, they left me.
Is that how you feel in terms of Obama and what's happening now?
Yes, sure.
Leon, what do you think about what Tommy and Bill are saying in terms of why Obama won and what's needed?
I think that when half of the country thinks that conservatives are bad people, bigoted, etc., 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 that means that they have a good message, they have good messenger, they have good ways of education, waters people in what they believe. Maybe they don't believe it, I don't know, but they made half of the country believe in that. Mm-hmm. So, in my opinion, we do not provide good education. We didn't convince people that what we are saying is truth. And the way that we offer to change the country is valid, and they will get something from that. People by nature, they want something for themselves. And if one side saying, if you vote for me, you will get that, and I don't mean gifts, but if you will vote for me, you will the middle class will finally be again able to buy houses and buy cars and etc. And if the other guy wins, only rich people will be able to survive here, then we need to start working our behinds in order to educate elementary school kids and middle school and high school and adults and so on and so on. Because right now it's all in the heads of I would say liberals in the universities, at schools. I had 2 daughters going through schools here in America. Now I have 3 grandchildren going through schools in America. I'm totally amazed of what they were told.
Absolutely.
So we need to start putting together a program that can be easily, explained to people. And I agree 100% that this country is not Europe, this country is America, and we have much more conservatives than any other place in the world, but we're not getting through to them.
Gentlemen, now I want to get to that because this is the problem. Even when I was doing my doctorate, I remember I started being a teaching assistant, and these were first, second year university students who did not know who Stalin was. Now just imagine what they were being taught in high school. So, and we know the reason why, because there's the teaching about racial hatred, but there's no teaching about class hatred, and we know that the left protects that boundary of theirs, but they don't want class hatred to be delegitimized. Look, I think the big problem here is that the right does not know how to fight political war. Conservatives do not know how to fight political war, and that's my boss and my hero, David Horowitz, who's written a pamphlet on this, The Art of Political War, where he's from the left and he's trying to teach conservatives how to fight. The problem is that, look at even conservatives who spend $100,000 sending their kids to university, but they're being taught Marxism, and the parents don't do anything about this. Overall, Bill, what can conservatives do to start more effectively fighting political war?
Well, before we get into that, let's start with one fundamental understanding about the state of America right now. We just admitted, all 3 of us admitted, that the left does absolutely everything right. They've got the candidate not of a generation, they've got the candidate not of a century, they've got the candidate of history. They're never going to have a candidate like this again, ever. They're never ever going to have a candidate like this again. They've got late night talk shows, they've got movies, they've got music, they've got comedy, they've got schools, they've got elementary schools, they've got universities. They own the entire culture. They own every aspect of the culture. Every single day their message is being pounded into our heads. Every single day they're demonizing Republicans. They've got a news media that throws them 30 points of voted 30 points at the poll for sure, by viciously attacking Republicans and then completely covering up, not just not covering news stories, suppressing news stories. So they have every single cylinder firing. They're doing everything exactly right. Our side elects a guy that's ashamed of his own money, ashamed of his own values. We can't get a message out if our lives depended on it. They're doing everything right. We're doing everything wrong. It's a 50-50 country, Jamie. If we improve our game by 5%, they'll never win again, ever win again. So that's the first thing people need to understand.
Tommy and Leon, this is the man that should be leading the GOP.
The first thing people need to understand is that these messages are not equally attractive. If one side gets 50% of the vote with every single thing in the culture pushing and pushing and pushing, and the other side gets 50% of the vote being pushed against, then these are not equivalent messages. Because if they were equivalent messages, these guys would win 90 to 95 to 5. We'd be like Zoroastrians in this country. So that's the first thing to understand. The second thing to understand is simply this. This message is not a message that's immune to Hispanics or blacks or anything. We don't view people that way. This business, we need to go after Hispanic voters. We don't believe there's such a thing as a Hispanic voter. We completely reject the concept of a Hispanic voter. We say there are individual citizens of this country who have their own individual goals, their own individual desires, and they will act in their own individual interests. And so our message is tailored to you as an individual. I'm not going to insult you by coming to you as a Hispanic voter. I'm going to come to you as a business owner. I'm going to come to you as a student. I'm going to come to you as whatever you are. And if we make that argument that way, this whole tribal warfare thing goes away for what it is, which is a petty, venal, mean-spirited, bitter, decisive, power-hungry chance to rule over the ruins of this once great country. This is not a tough fight to win. It's not. What we have not seen since Ronald Reagan is we have not seen a man who was proud of his side of the story. We've seen people who were apologetic. We're not as liberal as they are. We don't spend quite as much money. We don't believe in a government that's quite as big. We're not going to take quite as much of your money. We don't believe that we should be quite as you know, it's...
But there's a Stockholm syndrome.
People want to pick sides. Yeah. And our side has been, we're not quite as bad as them. That's not a side, and that's not who we are. And that's our candidates' positions. Somebody comes out here and starts blowing a silver trumpet about these values, and as Greg Gutfeld said, he said, what is conservatism ultimately? It's like, step off, man. Don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to do. You don't get to tell me what to do. Step off. That's the essence of what conservatism is. People, there's not a person in this country that will not resonate with that message if you sell it to them that way. What do you want? Do you want people who are going to leave you alone, or do you want people who are going to tell you what to do? What do you want? Do you want guys that are going to ban skateboarding because all of a sudden everybody's in the same pool now of health care? And so if you go and break your neck as a skateboarder, break your ankle, you don't get to skateboard anymore because I used to be paying for my health care, you used to be paying for yours. What you do to your own self is none of my business as long as you pay for your health care. But as long as I'm paying for your health care, now it is my business. So you don't get to have your skateboard anymore. No, it's too dangerous. Now people start getting this message like, oh, I see what these guys are saying. They're saying, step off. Don't mess with me. You've got no right to tell me what to do. This little document called the Constitution is smaller than the owner's manual for a Toyota Camry. It's very simple. It says this is all that the government is allowed to do and nothing else. And if it's not written down that they can do this, they can't touch you. Get off your back, leave you alone, take less of your money, kill the regulations. Everybody's going to vote for this. Everybody would vote for this.
Thank you, Bill. Gentlemen, I think we found the next candidate for 2016. Am I correct?
It's easy, man. It's easy. Any child can do this.
Okay.
Any child can do this.
Tommy, what do you think? Are you inspired with this plan?
Well, I think Bill is absolutely right on a lot of points, and we have to realize that Obama's message of hope and change is really about losing all hope in the American dream. Because to embrace socialism, you must lose hope that you're ever going to make anything out of yourself, that you're ever going to be able to make your own way. It's losing all hope in that and embracing a socialist ideology that, well, you know what, I don't have a chance to make it or be successful, so I'm going to hope that the government takes care of me. And so hope and change is really about having no hope in the American dream at all. And we have to teach people, we have to educate them that yes, you do have a chance to be successful under a free market capitalist system.
But what I think the problem is how Leon pointed out, is that the left unfortunately controls the culture, and this is not being taught. We got to figure out how to get this into our educational system. Leon?
There's about 100 million people who think like we are, and these 100 million people should be unleashed and go encourage conservatives to become teachers, encourage conservatives to become members of the school boards, encourage conservatives to teach their kids, read books. We need to have an alternative television, maybe on internet, that will show animation that will be not, animation. A couple of days ago, I was flying from North Carolina. I bought a book in the airport. It's an action adventure, people killing each other, and the whole intrigue again that American government is bad. They're killing people all over the world. At the middle of the book, I closed it, put it aside. To the next reader, didn't want to touch it anymore.
Right.
There is a whole culture built around Hollywood ideas of let's give a little bit to the poor and everyone will be absolutely happy. I came from the society like that. This is a society called socialism, but it's a society of envy, because all these people want is not for everyone to be happy. They want to be equal.
That's it.
Equal, period. It's not important, you have, it's not important that you have enough. It's important that you don't have less than him.
What was that joke in the Soviet Union about the farmer and the other guy gets a cow and the guy without the cow? You remember that? Tell us.
They had two cows, or somebody shot the other cow. What was it?
No, it's a little bit long for.
Tell it. It's because it's the essence of Russian culture. It's about this envy thing.
The difference between West and East, I'm sorry, I'm doing it a little bit different way, is that when on the West, in America, for example, farmer gets out at 5 o'clock in the morning and sees that the neighbors building some addition to the house, he calls to his wife and says, "Mary, tomorrow we'll start building even bigger addition." In Russia, in Poland, in the Soviet Union, the guy goes out, sees that there is someone who is building addition to the house. He calls to his wife, said, "Mary, tomorrow we will burn his house."
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. In the rest of the world, people see a guy driving an expensive car and they go, "That rotten bastard." And in America, somebody sees a guy driving an expensive car and they say, "I'm going to be that guy someday."
Exactly.
It was like that.
But see, these things don't go away. These things don't go away. This is as baked into American culture as that pessimism was baked into Soviet culture, and you can bleach it out of a society. I'm not saying you can't do it, but it takes a long time. And this kind of thing is what we need to talk about. Because as much as I respect David Horowitz and I respect him enormously, he's incredibly valuable because he understands how dirty these people fight, and he understands exactly how dirty they fight, and he can see what tactics they're using. But when we talk politics, Jamie, we lose every time. When we talk morals and values, we win every time. And that's why this can't be a political fight. It has to be a fight about what's right and wrong. People still know what these words mean. And you have to come out and speak the unvarnished truth and take this political correctness and blow it up with dynamite.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. All good things must come to an end. Our time is up, but 10 seconds each, please tell our viewers what you're doing and where they can find you. Bill?
Do political commentary at billwhittle.net is where a lot of the videos are. You can find me on Facebook at Bill Whittle, and it's the Bill Whittle channel on YouTube. That's where all my stuff is.
Excellent. Tommy?
I'll be at the Malibu Repertory Theater Company in Malibu, California, this January 11th through the 13th, doing a rip-roaring comedy called Wanda's Visit, and be on the lookout for some TV shows I'm producing.
Excellent. Leon?
www.capitalism101.net, writing.
Gentlemen, an honor and a privilege to have you as members of the Glazov gang. Join us next week for another edition. Good night.